Hello there and welcome back to another review. Following on from my previous review with Hand of Death, I thought we'd have another look at, have a look at the other film from this box set, with this like double play here that is Last Hurrah for Chivalry, another early film from John Woo here, made back in 1979. I think compared to Hand of Death, I think it's a much more accomplished film from John Woo. I think it's a much more rounded film. I think the film is quite vastly superior to Hand of Death, with a better story to tell, more intriguing characters, and much more interesting plot compared to, like I say, the previous movie. Woo has stated that this film was in many ways a tribute to his mentor, Chang-Chi, who, as we all know, was a very renowned, one of the most popular, along with like Luo Kao-lung. He's probably the other one. When you think of classic Shaw Brothers movies, he is the guy you think of, like he done 5 Venoms and plethora of other movies that are too many to mention. And it's amazing watching it even now, how many themes that run through this movie are plot threads and ideas that would appear in Woo's later gangster like epics, and that aspect of loyalty, brotherhood, friendship, etc. All themes that John Woo would come back to within his later movies with the heroic bloodshed genre, like, you know, Better Tomorrow, The Killer, and films like that. In many ways, the film completely opens like your classic Chang-Chi movie, with the villains attack Lil Kong's house. It's very similar to what would happen in them early Shaw Brothers movies, the way the movie opens. What is interesting is that although you think Master Kao is your main lead here in this movie, if you have seen the film, it's like, you know, he has been wronged. The focus is actually on 2 secondary characters played by Wei Pai and Damian Lau. Wei Pai, again, another one who you probably remember from films like Young Master. He was in 5 Deadly Venoms as well. Damian Lau, probably most famous for being in like Duel to the Death. So the film opens with Master Kao having a banquet. We learn that his wife was a prostitute and he bought her freedom, and the celebrations, I guess, are sort of a mark of them sort of coming together, if you will. Like I say, his wife was a prostitute. We have Hoi-sang here as the film's main villain. It's always great to see Hoi-sang, who you probably remember like from sort of Magnificent Butcher and loads of other films. Who turns up like with his cronies. We have Pai Chung Tang, I think is his name in this, and he has an enemy of Master, like he's an enemy of Master Kao's father, basically. So much so that he brings a severed bloody pig's head and just dumps it on the floor as soon as he walks in the building. He just brings this severed pig's head and just dumps it right there. Turns out his wife was paid off by Tang, to sort of stab him, and of course a fight breaks out. I mean, she is so. His missus is so greedy in this. Like, he thinks he's in love. She gets paid off to actually stab him. So she sort of does the dirty on this. I mean, he bought her freedom for like 1,000 taels. Tang gives her like 1,000 more, and she tries to kill her future husband. So she's just after the cash money. You know, she just wants the money. However she can get it, she'll do it, you know. So she tries to kill her future husband. I mean, the things some people do just to get some cash in their bank. Have some sort of ninja-clad henchman here just for good measure. Basically comes down to Hoi-sang wanting his mountain fortress back is basically the reason why he's storming sort of the palace and why he's, making a bit of a ruckus. Interesting to note sort of the crossfade technique that Woo uses here, though not a big deal. It doesn't look out of place, and it's something that, like the crossfade when he goes between scenes, is something that you're probably akin to more like Western films and things like that. So it is unusual seeing that crossfade, that transition between scenes in in a Hong Kong movie. Although just a minor thing, it's unusual to see that. So our prince escapes after the massacre, and like I mentioned, we as an audience just assume that he's going to be our lead, right? We assume he's going to be the main guy, the lead guy, but he isn't, right? Woo does mix it up a bit. Woo does give you, you think, right, this is the guy we're going to follow, it's just him going to get revenge, but this where the film is very clever in what it does. And the film didn't do that well when initially released. Last Hurrah for Chivalry didn't do all that well, but I think in many ways it's sort of become sort of a cult favourite over the years. I think it's it's one of them films, like when you look back at it, it was actually quite not ahead of its time, but it was bringing different nuances and a different take on sort of the kung fu movie. So our prince escapes, as I just mentioned, after the massacre, and we assume he's going to be our lead, and he goes to like his grand master who is healing him, and a nice moment where Cal goes to say something, he's like, save the breath for your revenge, he's like, just save your strength, you're going to get your revenge. He mentions too that a swordsman named Chang San can help him get revenge. So we meet Wei Pai and Damian Lau, who are listening to this girl play sort of her instrument. Wei Pai leaning over the wall, and Damian Lau in this, he's wonderful in this. Damian Lau is sort of this drunken, he's very skilled he's a very skilled fighter and a very skilled swordsman, but he's sort of a drunk. He sort of doesn't think he's worthy of anything. He doesn't necessarily have any he sort of feels like this is the life I've chosen. This is what, whatever happens will happen. So he's sort of drinking upside down from a tree, and he's a very chilled character in this, and he's not necessarily happy with the life he's chosen, but a character that can be very deep in his outlook and his values throughout the movie. I mean, he is a loner. He doesn't have many friends, and he's played wonderfully by Damian Lau, and it is, when you look at it, it's a wonderful performance. And him and Wei Pai do bounce off each other really well. There's quite a good dynamic there. The girl playing this tries to convince him like he is worth more than that, what you do, and she loves him, but like he's more concerned about wine than being with her. So he has like a good thing in front of him, but he just doesn't see it. He completely doesn't see it. He's more interested, in actually just drinking. We learn that Wei Pai's mum is ill. Comedy moments too, like where he starts beating this guy up who won't marry his sister, which is quite funny. And he is like, yeah, I would, but she's just got, I would marry her, but she's got such an angry brother. And Wei Pai's just tearing into him. It's like, why won't you marry? It's like, well, I would marry her, but you just keep beating me up. And his reasons just for not marrying her, like he's not sure if he can support her. So he's got just reasons, this guy, for not marrying her. So we learn that Cal's grandfather has the Moon Shadow Sword, and lots of some nice John Woo lines in this movie, like the bravery of fools brings down a kingdom. There are some nice sort of chivalrous lines in this movie. Cal begs for a sword in one instance, showing the desperation that his character has in order to get revenge. There's actually quite some nice music on some of the scenes as well. So Cal introduces himself to Wei Pai, and then our classic always villain turns up. Fung Hak-on is here yet again. Films I've reviewed of him with recently, like the Iron Fisted Monk, Warriors 2, you'll know Fung Hak-on if you've seen any Hong Kong film. Playing, I think, An Tien Ming is his name in this. And I love how the music goes all sinister, like as soon as you see his face, it's like, well, of course Fung Hak-on's going to be a bad guy. He's always a bad guy. Like, yep, he's a baddie again. Ching-yi, I think Damian's character, frees this prisoner who doesn't pay him for helping him, as he is sort of hired hand, and Chang San Wei Pai helps him, though Cheng can't remember meeting like Wei Pai's character as he was drunk last time. Fung Hak-on at one point, butchering some guards, they touched his blades. So, he's such a badass guy in this. He's again just playing that classic villain. And his whole goal and motive is he wants to challenge Chang San, the Divine Blade, but Wei Pai just throws his sword down and doesn't want to fight him. Then the film takes a twist when Cal offers Fong a chance to make 10,000 taels, but we as an audience have no idea. You see them talking, but we have no idea what he's asked him to do. We, as an audience, are kept in the dark as well. So they're like Cal, however you pronounce the lead character's name. Obviously, I watched it subtitled. I've always watched it subtitled, actually. We see him talking to Fung Hak-on, and we have no idea what is being said. And like I say, at the start of the movie, you're sort of on his side. You want him to get revenge. You think it's just going to be a simple revenge story. But as I say, the film does throw some twists and left turns at you, which keeps the film interesting. It really does keep the film ticking along over nicely. Cal brings Wei Pai's mum medical herbs and starts to earn his trust, even though his mum is dying. Damien kills the guy he freed at the brothel, and whilst there, the girl again is trying to convince him not to lead this life. Again, going back to his character, he is very much set in his ways. He doesn't see that it's something he doesn't have to do. He's very sort of, this is the life I've chosen. I can't get out of this. Another great line here, he says, you can't fall in love with anyone. No, he says to her, you can fall in love with anybody, but don't fall in love with a drifter. So basically he doesn't think he's worthy of her love as well. He really has a don't care attitude, and is almost resigned to things and the life he has chosen and leads. Fong kills one of Cal's men, the mum dies, and Cal gives the family money. Fong also kills Cal's mother whilst they were at the funeral. And so things are slowly but surely starting to get very suspicious now. Fung Hak-on kills Cal's grandmaster, I meant to say. So things are slowly getting more intriguing now. The plot is getting more sort of convoluted. Sort of characters are intertwining. There's third parties coming into the story about what's happening. So they killed Cal's grandmaster while they were at the funeral. So things are, slowly changing. Plot's starting to get more intriguing. Very suspicious. After returning from the funeral, Cal finds that everyone at his camp has been sort of slaughtered. Fong left a note saying, kill Chang San. So they know it was him that did it. So Chang Sang goes to take him as a favour to Master Kel for helping his family, like Wei Pai's character. It's like, you help my family. This guy's done this to you. I will get some payback for you, and being there and getting revenge for him. The whole notion that runs through the film is that although Lee Hoi-sang is like our main villain on paper, is actually Master Kel is actually the real mastermind in the plot. And I say that is what's quite a genius idea with this film. Is like you start off and you initially think, this is the guy we're going to be sympathetic with. This is the guy we're going to be following throughout the narrative of the movie. It's not so. It turns out the guy who we think is going to be the good guy, the guy we're going to be rooting for, is actually the mastermind, the evil mastermind in the movie, even though on face value it looks like Lee Hoi-sang is going to be. So he's sort of like working from the shadows and getting others to fight his battles for him. So nice sword play here between Fung, Hak-on and Wei Pai when he goes to take him, like get revenge, and some nice slow motion that like Wu would later be known for, like with the slow motion with the gunplay and the doves and things like that. With both fighters emerge from like this collapsed tea shack. Chang Sang, although managing to get some blows and hits in, you are still never fully sure though the whole way through the fight if Chang Sang is actually going to win. But he does win in the end. So Cal's Grandmaster thinks it's a conspiracy. But how did Fung Hak-on know where he lived and wanted him to use his sword so badly? Fung Hak-on, he in this is he's sort of like Master Cal's, and them two together have sort of got sort of a deal going. Bearing in mind, Cal is after the sword all the time. This is what his Grandmaster will not give him. He will not give him this sword, even though at one point he is absolutely begging for it. Bearing in mind, like Damian Lau goes into a gambling den and just smashes a drinking vessel over a guy's head after being conned. And I love in the build up to this, he just keeps smashing them over his head again and again and again to test the strength from like what will hurt more. Like he's about to use this vessel and he just keeps on smashing it over his own head to like think, does that hurt? Is that going to hurt enough? And I think that it's quite a funny scene, proving like how like this guy Damon Lau just is past even caring. The whole film is much more sophisticated, more mature effort than Hand of Death was. Chang Sang is drinking hard though, not sure why. I mean, he's lost his mum. He's almost like he just lost his mum, and he's almost like celebrating in this scene for some reason. Wei Pai helps him beat out these guys in this gambling den who just so happened to fall under Lee Hoi-sang, Pai Chung-tang, who at this moment is beating the crap out of his men just for training purposes. Lee Hoi-sang in this as the villain is just beating the absolute bejesus out of his men, just so he can have some training. Chang Yi, Damian's character, spies on him and knows he is after him, and Chang Sang, Cao attempts to hang himself, or so it seems he is, and Chang Sang agrees to go kill Tang. The whole notion of loyalty amongst friends, I can see you are suffering, so I will help idea. Damian warns him and is up against and agrees to go with him to help. Cao won't send any of his men to help, and one of his subordinates wonders why, like, why are you not helping these crew? Because he becomes really, like I mentioned, from the shadows, and he becomes almost like you really like hate this guy because he becomes such a coward sort of as the film progresses, and you really wonder why that is. It's annoying, but again, it's the way they sort of turn the character. That they're both being pawns in this. They're both pawns and both being used. The story to this movie, you take it out of the setting, it could have easily been like a modern day bloodshed, cop sort of drama. It didn't necessarily have to be set in that traditional sort of kung fu world. So we have our two pawns raiding the place, taking on his men, ninjas, and it's all great stuff. It's all great fun stuff. Damian gets wounded by a flying dart. And see, a lot of movies, this would have been the ending. Like right here, when this happens, when they're going into the palace, this would have been the ending of the movie. The good guys storming the bad guys fort. But John Woo has more of a story to tell here. And I love at one point they get trapped in like a cage too and have to sort of fight some other fighters whilst they're in this cage, which was quite interesting. I thought that was quite cool. Like fighting them at really close quarters. So it's at this time that Cal's personality totally changes. He's sitting there with like a chessboard and develops like an evil laugh as well. You've got to have once the evil laugh comes in on any villain, once the evil laugh is there, this guy, he's turned into the villain. If he's playing a chessboard, he's got the notion he's calculating his next move and things like that. So they say the evil laugh, and he's become like a Bond villain, just like instantly, just switches into like this sort of Blofeld sort of criminal mastermind. Great fight against Hoi-sang, who does like sleeping kung fu here, and a great set when they take on Tang with all the candles. And yes, there, the candles are a big, like, not a big thing, but there is a reason for the candles there. He is so dirty, he's using some kind of like sulfur solution that he uses to blow over the candles, so it causes the flame to erupt in their faces, which gives the fight a bit of a novelty. It gives the fight a bit of a bit of not just a fight and that's it. And if what I've said, like, in this review so far has been a bit confusing, or I'm sure I've got some names wrong, or I've tripped over myself in the plot, but when you're trying to describe this movie from sort of what happens in the narrative, it can, not confusing, but when you're going through it, I've probably got some names wrong here and there. But it's a really good movie. It's one that I think it's vastly superior to Hand of Death. They managed to turn the tables and stab him up the bum, as you do. Usually, I mean, I've seen quite a number of kung fu movies now where, for some reason, the villain gets either, usually stabbed up the bum. I think in Shanghai Express, somebody gets stabbed up the bum, and it just happens for some reason. Then we have a twist where we learn that Cao gave Ching, I think, the 500 taels to kill Chang San. So out of nowhere, you think these two who were pawns and being used, one of them has killed the other one, or and it's wonderfully done, the reveal here, like with the close up on Damian's face and the blood splattering over it, and we as an audience think that he has killed Wei Pai, right? We think, oh my god, I thought these two were sort of brothers, and then suddenly, he's turned on him, he's been paid off as well, you can't trust anybody. So Cao is going mad, searching, he's still after this sword, right? He's determined to get this sword, like, this is what he wants, and in destruction, he finds it, he kills his grandmaster, his assistant wants nothing to do with him anymore, saying your father was never like this. So Cao just lobs a spear at him and stabs him in the back, because he's just fallen from grace completely. Chang Yi goes to collect his money. Of course it's an ambush, and of course Cao has to pay for what he has done, so the guy was wronged at the start is sort of now our villain. Chang San joins the fight, and we get a flashback showing that the blood was not from him but Master Tang the whole time, so he didn't actually kill Wei Pai, it was somebody else's blood. And the whole notion that friendship is more important than any money is sort of the thing that comes through here. Like, there are still good people out there, like, not everybody has a price, like, some people do still have values and sort of morals and a code that they that they stand by. What I don't get is, like, Master Cole is holding his own against the pair of them at the end. Aren't they both meant to be like super skilled fighters? And Cole was never meant to be good enough. Like, Cole was he was never meant to be a good fighter, right? But these two are meant to be really good. But he's managing to hold his own against them, no problem. Aren't they, like I say, meant to be like better than him? That's why he hired and befriended them in the first place, or as the Moon Shadow Sword, and like now he's in possession made all the difference. I assume because he's got the sword, it's now made him a good fighter or something. Cal also somehow manages to keep sort of flying away like Superman style. He's got a whole Clark Kent Superman thing going on, hiding from our two heroes. Chang Yi saves Chang San's life by killing Cal, but gets stabbed and killed in the process at the same time. It's a fantastic movie. It really is about loyalty, friendship, with some great performances from Wei Pai and Damian Lau, and it was just setting up really for many of them John Woo traits, and it's that would later follow in his heroic bloodshed movies. But it's a kung fu movie that keeps you guessing, it keeps you on your toes, it's extremely well done, it's a fantastic narrative. It's almost like a very intelligent kung fu movie. It's a very polished kung fu movie, and like I say, initially I don't think it done really well at all, but I think over the years it's begun to get, or has over the years got a lot more appreciation and a lot more fans, because I think it's, like I say, a superior movie to Hand of Death, and I think John Woo was definitely getting into his stride with this movie about what was to follow in the 80s. So thank you very much indeed for watching. If you have seen Last Hurrah for Chivalry, let me know if you enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed the review, and I'll see you soon.
Don't concentrate on the finger, or you will miss all that heavenly glory.